Hello, everybody. It's the Lawn Gnome, and I am here with a video that I had no anticipations of ever recording, but I am glad that I am here regardless. And today is going to be a very special day because we are going to be discussing something that we love so dearly, but there's definitely going to be a lot to talk about here, and that, of course, is Funko Pops. Why are we back talking about Funko Pops today? Well, I have to give props to one of the people that is here today. And speaking of people that are here, we almost got the entire band back together because if you don't recognize the faces here, Cami and Jordan were here a couple of videos beforehand when we were discussing a Funko celebration. So Jordan, Cami, it's great to have you back as always.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
And congratulations on getting married, by the way. I believe that the last time you were here, you were only engaged at the time.
Yeah, I was engaged at the time. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, life has definitely taken an interesting and wonderful turn for us in the room. I mean, when we last all got here in a room together, I didn't have a daughter. So that's another big thing that happened. So unfortunately, Katie from the Introverted Reader was really excited to be here again, but duty calls, she actually became a first-time auntie. So she had to do a last-minute babysitting job. So she unfortunately was unable to get here today, but we just wanted to give her a proper shout out and say, we always appreciate your willingness, and, you know, the show just has to move on. So we are actually going to be talking about a lot of things today in regards to Funko because of the fact that it is not just the 25th anniversary of Funko as a company. It is also marking the 10th anniversary of me collecting Funko Pop, so I definitely want to give my own personal thoughts on that. But also at the same time, I have actually been making Funko Pop videos for such a long time, actually, 10 years now, and I recently recorded my 100th Funko Pop update. I now officially have 102 Funko Pop update videos on my channel in the bag. That's pretty insane.
And I'm happy to say I've watched every single one of them.
I would not expect anything less, Cami. I think, as far as I'm concerned, Cami, you are the only person that is still watching my YouTube videos these days, because I don't get comments from anybody anymore.
I love your videos.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So anyway, there's definitely a lot of ground to cover, and I don't want to take too much of everybody's time out there because we all have places to be and things to do and Funko Pops to collect. So I just basically want to go around the room here, and I'll start with Jordan. I just want to know, since we last spoke, how have you been feeling in regards to Funko as a whole? Like, have you been just as excited as you were when we started collecting, when we started talking, or has anything changed your mind in regards to this toy franchise that clearly is no longer classified as a fad? They have clearly surpassed the fad, the Beanie Baby, whatever. This product has been around for going on 12 years now.
I don't think my opinions have changed. It's just I've been very more picky with my Funko Pops because, for one, I'm running out of grown-up stuff, and two, I'm just very specific on what Funko Pops I want. Like, my recent addition to my collection is this Piplup Funko Pop figure that I just got for Christmas, and this Pokemon is my favorite Pokemon, one of my favorite Pokemons of all time, and I'm like, I gotta have this in my collection. So, and plus, I know, like, Disney has been releasing more Funko Pops lately. Like, I thought about getting the 50th anniversary of Disney World with Mickey and Minnie in their outfits, but I'm like, maybe I don't need it because I just don't have enough room. But I know with the live-action Peter Pan coming up, because that's my favorite, my #1 favorite Disney movie of all time, I know they're going to release Funko Pops out of the live-action movie. I know how excited and nervous I am about that movie, but I know I'm probably going to want those Funko Pops if they ever make the Funko Pop figures for the live-action Peter Pan. Those are my top priorities for my collection.
I actually had no idea that that was your favorite Disney movie. So that's actually, so that's a big question. Did you see the Hot Topic exclusive that just recently came out, the double pack of Peter Pan and his shadow?
No, I didn't actually. I gotta look it up now. Thanks.
What? What, Tammy, you don't know about this either? Oh,
No, I need this in my life like yesterday. What?
it came out like a month ago on Hot Topic.
I
It's a Hot
honestly
Topic
did not know
exclusive.
about
Oh my
that.
God, I need to go into Hot Topic. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. They literally had that release. I mean,
Oh,
that's one of the few things that I'm sort of a little upset about when it comes to the Funko company itself. They used to be very good in regards to updating us on the new releases with the glam shots and all that.
Mhm.
They don't do that as often as they used to, and I think it's just because of that things sort of get lost in the shuffle. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I'm not kidding. That one exists. I actually saw it in person like in December or January. I'm pretty sure that it is not hard to obtain.
I need it, and I will get it. It's on my
Well-
bucket list now.
Well, I know how determined you are, Cammie, because I don't know if you want to share just how big of a fanatic you are with a certain Funko Pop that you put a decent amount of money on. And the most important thing is the fact that I will never live down the fact that you yelled at me because you said to me I never told you about it, which I did. So I'm not.
Okay, so after going back in our messages, Stephen, yes, you are correct. You did inform me, and it was one of those that just kind of got piled on that day. So it is my own fault. But also, I didn't think that that one would be as crazy as it was. I mean, it sold out very quickly, and then it became unobtainable, mostly because it's limited to 2,000 pieces. But oh my God, it became my freaking grail. But lo and behold, I found it, and hold on, did the heavens just light up? Because it should have, because yeah. I finally added my Cheshire Cat to my Alice in Wonderland collection. I love this. I love it so much. I'm so happy to have it. My mother says I have a problem because she said, you know, this wouldn't have been a grail to you if it wasn't for a completist thing that you have. And she's probably right. I just needed to have all 4 of the cups. But within a week of that happening, I also got my Mad Hatter.
The original.
So, you know,
Wow.
the original Mad Hatter. Yeah. So that said, this is probably more of a grail than even that was. Even though I love that so very much, I was so happy to get this at a very fair price. I got it from a toy shop in New York, of all places, and he wheeled and dealed with me, and I said, you know what, I'll take it. And so I believe now, because this whole thing behind me, this spinner, is nothing but Alice in Wonderland, and I think I am absolutely done. There is 3 Cheshire Cats that I do not possess. I have no intent of possessing. I think the only thing I would look to add is if they made some more of these just original sodas, because they only came out so far with the Mad Hatter, and I don't like the black light ones. So if they do come out with some more of these of the original characters, I will definitely add. But otherwise, guys, I'm done.
That's awesome. Except, well, wait a minute. What was your official decision on the poster?
What poster?
That's a good question.
The Alice in Wonderland movie poster one I showed you.
Oh, the box set. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
that big box.
Posters. Yes, Stephen. Yes. Okay. I'm not done. I will be getting that one. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing that with me.
Sorry, because if I didn't
then I'll be
share it with
done.
you, you would have killed me.
This is true.
I know
though.
they
And
released
I have
on
to
the
thank you,
ones you
Steve.
were talking about, the poster with the Funko Pop in front of it. I know they have the Aladdin one, and that's my husband's favorite Disney movie, and I'm thinking about getting that just to add that to the collection because it's something that reminds me of my husband, because I clearly have Jasmine and Raja from Aladdin. I was like, you know what, I probably will need that because that's reminds me of my husband, and that's his favorite Disney movie of all time.
Well, I'm wondering, I think what you're referring to is a different set. I think
Oh, it's a
that's
different set. Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
I'm definitely going to go into a detail in regards to that. So, the truth is, 2022 was a very interesting year for me in regards to collecting Funko Pops, just because of the fact that, and Cammie knows this. I mean, Cammie and I are really, really good friends. I mean, we always say that we wish that we actually lived in the same state or like in the same town because we'd probably be hanging out every goddamn day. But the fact that we talk all the time about the fact that at one point I was really starting to not really feel so much for Funko because they just weren't really giving me anything that I wanted. But for some strange reason, in 2022, all of these Funko Pops, well, not all of them, but a large chunk of them that I have basically been telling people I wish that I could have, apparently somebody was listening and they finally started cranking out all of these Funko Pops that I always wish that they could get. And then I finally see them and I'm like, oh, well, now I have to add these to my collection because these are some of my all-time favorites. I mean, one of the few things that Cammie also knows is the fact that one of my big themes right now in regards to collecting Funko Pops is mostly comic books and comic book related stuff. And so when they announced that Walgreens was going to have 2 brand new X-Men Pops of 2 specific characters, Nightcrawler and Jubilee, I was like, these are 2 of my all-time favorite characters. I have to have them. Like I've been asking for these for years. And so when they finally announced them, and not just that, they were exactly the way I wanted them to look. They were perfect. So I had to pick them up, and I had no regrets because I don't collect every X-Men Pop out there. I collect the characters that I love so dearly. And are there still certain characters that I am waiting for? Yes, there are. But will I ever get them? I don't know. But I'll be patiently waiting for them. But I think what's also very interesting is the fact that Funko is definitely going through a lot of interesting changes right now in regards to how they're trying strategic ways, or that might be the wrong term, I'm not sure, but how to continue to keep Funko Pops relevant. You know what I mean? And I think one of the things that they're doing is the bigger the box size of the Funko Pop, the more money someone is going to spend on said box. So that's one of the few things that I have been noticing a lot. There's been a lot of deluxe sets, a lot of movie moments. There's been a lot of sets that you actually buy separately and you put them all together to make one big scene. And I'm not going to lie about the fact that I actually fell into one of those rabbit holes just because of the fact that it was something from my childhood. It was Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six. I had to have them.
Oh.
But the only reason why I bought that was because of the fact that alone each of those pops had so much dynamic personality to them, and they all look great in their boxes on their own. They look great together in a set, but on their own, they look wonderful. But the 2 things that Funko started creating in the last 2 to 3 years that I wasn't really certain of, but you know, I'm very selective, but I have to say I really like them. It's the albums and the comic covers.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that they have released on the album covers that you were talking about, like for music. The only ones that I would want is the one with the Bee Gees, because I've been a Bee Gees fan since I'm in my mom's womb. Long story, but my mom's always been a Bee Gees fan, and that would be the only one I would want.
Yeah, and they have so many ways that they can actually go, but you know, I don't have many of them. I only have 2. I have a Power Slave album, Iron Maiden, and that's just because I'm a big fan of that band. I actually saw them in concert last October. I have the mascot. His name is Eddie. I have 3 Eddies, and I have no regrets because they're from 3 of my favorite Iron Maiden albums, and the Power Slave album is just gorgeous because the pop is so unique. And when they announced that they were making a album of Cyndi Lauper's She's So Unusual as an 80s fanatic, Cyndi Lauper is the 80s, I had to have that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so many album covers that they could make that they haven't made yet, but apparently these seem to be selling, and I didn't even know this, Cammie, but you're the one that told me this because you saw it on a video. You can actually take them out of their boxes, and they have holes in the back of their boxes, so you can actually hang them on your wall.
Wow.
Yeah, but
that was kind of a game changer for me. because I'm an inbox collector for most of my Funkos. Right now, this is kind of just a haphazard temporary display. I just wanted to have pops in the background for our conversation. This is not how this is going to stay, though. I'm in the market for new shelving right now because I just moved into this space. So I'm still redesigning it. But the room that I was in, that is going to be kind of now like a more pop culture. It's going to be a nod to 80s, 90s cartoons. And then that's where my comic stuff will go. And I decided to go ahead and take all my comic ones out of the box because I had seen a video, Top Pops had actually shown me. And I was like, what? This is like so different, because when you see something so custom and so specialized like those comic covers, you want to preserve them. You don't want to touch them. You know, some of them have the stickers on the plastic, so you just want to leave them as they are. And I thought, wow, if Top Pops can take them out and display them like that, so can I, and I will. And so the first one that I took out of the box was the Poison Ivy one, which I was very apprehensive about, but it actually turned out to be a really beautiful pop out of the box. And then I just kind of continued from there. So eventually they will be on a wall, and maybe someday I'll film in that room again. But for now, here we are.
Yeah, and along with the comic covers and the album covers, there's also, Jordan, you mentioned the Aladdin cover. That's the VHS set that they're making.
Yeah, the VHS set, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the cheaper one. But then there's the movie posters, and the movie posters are like these gargantuan boxes. They're like $60 each. Like I went to a Newberry Comics chain store, and I saw the Jurassic Park movie poster. That thing must be about 3 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big, big box with a Jurassic Park poster on the back and the T-Rex fighting with a Velociraptor. That's the pop. So now, along with celebrating the centennial of Disney, it seems to me that Funko is, I don't know if they're going to, but they seem to be making a movie poster pop out of every Disney canon classic. And the thing is, it's not just one character. Like, the Snow White one is Snow White surrounded by woodland creatures. The Pinocchio is Pinocchio following Jiminy Cricket. The Fantasia one is Sorcerer Mickey with a broomstick. And the Alice in Wonderland one just came out. They just showed the glam shot for that one, and it's Alice with the Cheshire Cat. They're also making a Cinderella one, and I know that they're going to be making more of them, but the question is, are they going to really go with all 61? And I don't know, because of the fact that there are still certain Disney canon classics that have not become pops yet.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite finds from this year was from Brazil Comic-Con. Like, I didn't even know that Brazil even had a Comic-Con, but it was the only way that I was able to get a Funko Pop from Treasure Planet.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, that one looked cool.
Yeah, I mean, is it expensive? Yeah, this must have cost me about, I think, $25. But if this is the only one that they ever make, then I'm glad that I have it, because if I was going to get a Jim Hawkins pop, this is exactly how I would want him. I want him on his Windsurfer rocket board. I think the best bonus about it is all the way in the front, there's a tiny little pop of Morph, if you know the movie.
Oh, I see Morph. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the fact that Morph is there is great. But would I like a Treasure Planet line? I would love a silver pop. The details on that pop would probably be gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's my gripe with Funko right now, is that, and maybe it's been my gripe for many years, but now honing in, kind of like what Jordan was saying, you know, I'm being very selective about the pops that I integrate into my collection just because I'm running out of space, is that we're just seeing a lot of the same types of pops. So although I can appreciate what they're doing for the 100-year on the Disney side with the posters, they kind of already started that trend with the VHS line. So, you know, I mean, to me, I've seen the big boxes in stores. I've seen, I mean, over the holiday season, they were just blatantly in our face, you know, with the Home Alone one. That was amazing. But, you know, to the average collector, where are we going to put these things? And I don't know that Funko is really thinking that through. I think it's more of how much money can we get now out of the product that we're serving our community. But and I get that they're trying to do something new, but you really need to have the collector in mind when you're creating these products, because the average person is not going to invest that kind of money, nor are they going to invest because of space. And it's not that I don't think they're fantastic. I mean, I almost got rid of my Run DMC pops to get the 3-pack of that big, $50 box.
The big
of
concert thing.
Because of the way it was set up, it was just gorgeous. But
yeah,
I can't do it anymore. I'm running out of space. And because I keep the boxes, I don't know how to incorporate all of these big ticket items,
Yeah, I just don't see myself really investing in the big ticket items. But I will say, I liked what you said about the comic covers, Cammie, and that's only because of the fact that, in 2019, I started reading comic books again. And that really definitely helped me during the pandemic because I had so much to keep me entertained, because other than that, the pandemic probably would have broke me. But when they started making the comic covers, they make a lot of them. They do. But I also am very selective in regards to which ones I'm going to get, because I may have, I think at the moment, 9, soon 10. But there's definitely 20 of them at this point in time now, maybe a little bit more than that. But I really focus on different things when it comes to me collecting those, because I look at them as a comic book fan, a comic book writer fan, and a comic book artist fan. A perfect example would be like when they first announced that they were making comic covers. The first one that they were making was Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman. That's an iconic book.
Yeah,
so,
I've seen that Funko Pop. I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, it's different strokes for different folks. If you're not a comic book fan, it's not something you need to have. But I got it because, it's Action Comics #1. Like, am I ever going to get the comic? Well, ironically, I ended up getting the facsimile edition of the book, so I actually read it for the first time. So now I have it. But don't get me wrong. I love the style. I love the pop. It's gorgeous. I love that it really captures the authenticity of the 1938 version of the character. But then the next one that they announced was Batman from the very first issue of Batman. So that's Batman #1 from 1940. And I pre-ordered that. And it was taking forever for that pop to make it to my house, to the point where the company that I ironically pre-ordered that comic cover from had an exclusive of a different comic cover of Batman. It was Batman issue 423. Now, the reason why, and when I saw that, I immediately canceled the 1940 Batman and bought the Batman 423. Why did I do that? I did that because that was the very first comic cover that my favorite comic book artist ever drew. It was Todd McFarlane, legendary name in comics. So I got the Entertainment Earth Batman 423 comic cover, and I have it now, and it's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. And I have a couple of other very interesting ones. From Marvel, I have Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. And just to see the designs, they're great. I have Journey into Mystery 83, which is the very first issue that was ever made with the very first appearance of Thor. The Spider-Man is based on the original Spider-Man artist, Steve Ditko. The Thor is the original artist, Jack Kirby, one of my favorite comic book writers and artists of all time. He basically invented almost everything that Marvel is. However, there was one specific one that Funko made that basically made me realize this is a thing just because they're really capturing the essence of what comic book fans like. And it was this Walmart exclusive.
I was going to be mad if you didn't talk about that one, because that, hands down, that is probably in my top 5 favorite Funko Pops of all time. That's how well done it is.
And that's what I love so much about this one. This captures the comic book fan in me. This captures the Funko fan in me, because this is the most beautiful pop I have ever seen. This is one pop surrounded by 5 little pops.
Yeah,
I've
that looks
never
really
seen
cool.
something like that before. Yeah, it's basically, this is the comic cover, Brave and the Bold, issue 28. This is the very first appearance of the Justice League of America, and it's 5 DC heroes fighting an enemy called Starro. If you saw the James Gunn movie, The Suicide Squad,
Yes, I
that's
have.
Starro.
Yes.
So I had to pick it up. And the thing that was interesting was you weren't able to buy the physical pop without buying the NFT. And we'll get into that in just a bit. But I said, as long as I'm getting the physical pop, this is a must have for me, because as a fan of Funko and comic books, this one speaks to me, absolutely speaks to me. And then Funko did something completely out of the blue that I never would have imagined. They captured my fandom of Funko, they captured my fandom of comics, and then they captured my true inner child. They have never done that before. And how did they do it? So around Thanksgiving time, Target announced a exclusive pop of Batman. And it was a Batman with comic book shading. And that's really cool because I saw when they brought that, when they made the 1984 Mirage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the comic book shading. I liked that. I didn't buy them, but I respected them for like getting Turtles fans, Mirage Comics fans, old school comic fans. Like that's something that Funko had not been doing for a very long time. That was the time when they were basically releasing Squid Game pops. And I was like, why are they doing this? For the Squid Game fans, obviously, but I didn't care. But I saw the Batman pop and I was like, this is pretty cool. But then they announced a tease for what's coming next week. And they gave you a little clue. And I said, wait a minute, this looks like a Green Lantern pop. So I saw the glam shot and I have the Green Lantern with me. And it's this specific one. Now, I looked at this one, I said, this is a very specific Green Lantern. This is a Green Lantern that was made in the 1990s. This was the Green Lantern. This Green Lantern's real name in the comics, his name is Kyle Rayner. He was created in the early 90s by Ron Mars. He was my Green Lantern when I was growing up. So I saw this one with the comic book shading, and then I took a good look at the Batman. I said, wait a second. There's something here. I think this is the case. So I went into my comic boxes, and unfortunately, I don't have the comic book with me. I would be glad to, but I would have to literally dive into things and lift boxes, and I'm dealing with some really bad tendonitis in my hand right now. I mean, if you can see, my thumb is completely crooked right now. I'm actually going to a orthopedist to get a checkout next week. But I said to myself, could this be? Because the next pop that was coming was The Flash. And I took a look in my comics and I pulled out a comic book that came out in 1997. It was JLA #1, written by Grant Morrison. I said, I looked at all 3 of these pops on the screen, and I took a look at the comic book, and I was like, no way. They're making the JLA 1997 Grant Morrison Justice League pop set, Target exclusives. I was like, this is for me. I have to buy this. And the funny thing is, when I got my Green Lantern one in the mail, it actually came broken. So I went to my local store, and luckily they had some in stock. And the guy who was checking my exchange, he said, by the way, what exactly is so special about these? Because there are a lot of people coming into the store requesting these, and they're not young. They're like around your age. I said, that's because they're based on an old comic book from the 90s. And he's like, really? I was like, oh, yeah. I bought it when I was a kid. I'm like, this is my Justice League. So I was like, I have to have these. And I'm like, this is what Funko had not done for a long, long time. And if it wasn't for things like the comic covers or the JLA or the X-Men pops that came out, I really saw myself not wanting to collect anything anymore. And now I'm sort of back to where I was before 2022, but there still are a few things that are coming out here and there. Like I know that Target Con is now officially showing their exclusives, and they're making a comic book cover pop of Amazing Spider-Man 300. That's a Todd McFarlane artwork, so I have to have that as a Todd McFarlane fan. Then at this point, I will officially have all 3 Funko pieces that are based on Todd McFarlane art, because Todd McFarlane will never give them the rights to Spawn. He will never let them make a Spawn pop, because he said Funko is too kiddie and Spawn is not for kids. I respect him for that. I do. But I've done most of the talking now, so guys, run with everything that I've been saying.
Well, and just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, that's kind of where I was going with it earlier. You know, I need Funko to speak to me now. They have to come up with things that are really just going to knock my socks off, because, you know, especially like the line behind me is pretty, well, it's 100% Disney behind me. They have to make characters that I haven't seen. I don't need any more princesses. I don't need any more, you know, Mickeys and Minnies. Although I did go crazy for Mickey's 90th and, you know, get all those different replicas over the years, they need to just start appealing to the fandoms again. And I understand, again, the need for some of these bigger ticket items. They were trying to change up the game. And then they have, you know, your separate lines now, like the gold line and stuff like that. You know, in order to be relevant as a company and as a corporation, you need to continue to grow, and you can't just hone in on one type of fan base. But by doing that, and I am a Funko stockholder, the stocks plummeted because they started getting too crazy. And when I sat in on the meeting, you know, it was a virtual meeting, that's basically what shareholders were saying, is that you're all over the map. And by doing this, you're losing revenue because you're not honing in on any one type of collector. And so, you know, I still hold stock in the company. That's how much I believe in them. But I do think that we need to look at our visionaries too. You know, our OGs are aging, and what they're trying to do to the company now is kind of go back to its roots, which is fine, you know, to an extent. But, you know, let's talk about like what Brian Mariotti did over the holidays when he released that Hanna-Barbera, the book. Okay, that's a great book. And as a Hanna-Barbera fan, I love it. But is that really Funko? Not so much. I mean, if you look at that book, it is predominantly photographs of old toys. But yet you spent $50 on that book. Did you get a Funko? Yeah, and it's great. It was a Huckleberry Hound, you know, Funko. And if you're a Hanna-Barbera collector, then that's liquid gold to you. But not everybody is about the retro toys. You know, that's why Funko has a retro toy line, and they let us collect all of those, and that's cool. But I need to know what's gonna happen in terms of like, if that is Mariotti's vision, and then Mike is kind of on this food tangent now. I mean, he literally, his entire Instagram is comprised of him making weird food and tasting strange food. What does that have to do with Funko? I don't know. You know, he'll do the interviews and stuff like that for Funko Fun, but I don't really understand the vision of Funko anymore. I think before it used to be very cut and dry and very clear as to what their intention was with the company, where they saw their fan base, what they intended to do for their fans. And now we're just seeing a regurgitation of the same types of pops. So if 23 doesn't offer us some new lines and some faces that we haven't seen, I really don't see my collection. Yeah, I don't see my collection growing at the rate that it was. Furthermore, though, I am getting older. I am a little bit more lenient on spending where it makes sense for me in my collection, but I will hold back, because I think during the pandemic I got a little spend crazy because I was going stir crazy.
I think we all did.
But now, you know, the price of everything has gone up so exponentially. It's hard to make the decision. Do I want to add something to my collection, or do I want to feed my family tonight? You know, and that's some real world problems that we're having as collectors, is making these hard hitting decisions. And we need to kind of prepare ourselves that the worst is not, you know, over. We still have a big hurdle to come through before we get to the other side. Food costs are still on the rise. Gas is still up. So you know, I've got to be a smart collector. And by doing that, Funko really has to do something that's just going to wow me and make me say, yes, I
Yeah.
have to have this in my collection. Otherwise, it's a waste.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're talking to a person who has a young daughter now, and you're talking to a newly married woman. So, your thoughts, Jordan? What do you agree? Do you disagree?
I honestly like I'm very biased, but like Cami said, like before it's been easy to collect Funko Pops, but now it's like harder because like the price has been going up, and it's like you have a choice to make whether it's to have the money for your family or have the money to collect more, especially when people have different jobs. You don't know how much they're making, and it's like hard for them to have a budget for their bills or like for their personal spendings, like to add a Funko Pop to their collection. Like for me, I am trying to cut back on my spending because like my husband and I are trying to save money for our house right now, and I'm just trying to cut back on my spending and try to get in a habit of saving more money. So yeah, I kind of agree. Like collecting Funko is really hard, especially when I've noticed that like Cami said, the company is like going back to their own roots, but like with they're not bringing up a lot of new stuff. They are bringing like similar Funko Pops that we've seen before, like some of the Disney Funko Pops. We've seen some of them before, but they're like in different forms, if you know what I mean. It's yeah, but yeah, I've been cutting back on my spending just because I'm trying to save money for our house, and
Yeah,
it's
and
kind of
your
hard.
heart's in the right. Yeah, your heart's in the right place. I mean, like, there's a couple of things that I would definitely pinpoint before we go on to a couple of discussions on some of the other products that they've been giving us over the last couple of years. But I mean, it's like, you know, the princesses that they're just recently making with the pins. I'm like, do you really want them for the sake of getting those pins? You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
number
that's one of the
one.
things that threw me off was when Funko started making Funko Pop pins. I was like, I'm sorry, it looks better as a figure than a pin. I would not collect those pins.
Yeah,
Even
and
though I'm
then
a
like,
Disney pin collector, those just look too weird for me to
yeah, I mean,
add to
for
my
you,
collection.
I'm pretty sure the pins that you're collecting are any Disney pins from the Disney theme parks. Those are, I know a lot of people that are big Disney pin collectors. Are you also one of them too, Cami?
Was. So back in the early 2000s, Disney actually released a line of their most iconic movie moments. And I nearly completed that set. They were sold exclusively at the Disney store. And then that kind of catapulted my interest in collecting pins. At that time, I was still going to Disneyland very frequently, at least twice a year. And so I would just pick up specifically Alice in Wonderland pins or very unique park pins, you know, like a ride that I love, Splash Mountain or the Matterhorn or, you know, something like that. And then pin collecting went berserk. And when it went berserk, I kind of stepped out of the game because then pins became very expensive. They became very elaborate. I mean, they went from, you know, a normal size to like these gigantic pins. And then now you can like get puzzles and all kinds of crazy things. So, you know, kind of going back to what you just said, Steve, in reference to Funkos as pins, I, again, understand the concept that Funko was going with. Let's, you know, speak to a very niche market, but you also have to be very careful. Are Funko collectors pin collectors, you know, and is this something that is really going to speak to the masses? Me personally, I agree with Jordan. I think they're very ugly as a pin. And there was nothing appealing to me as a pin collector of the past or present that said, oh, I need these in pin form, you know? So it didn't push me to
I've got a very interesting question. I don't know if either of you are actually in this camp, but I'm really curious to know the people who actually invested in the Splash Mountain Funko Pops. I think the question is now, like, people who actually have them, do they want to sell them because of how much money they could make? Or do they now want to hold on to them because of the fact that if they get rid of it, then they'll have nothing related to Splash Mountain or Song of the South ever again? Like, that's a real conundrum for many people. I mean,
yeah, you got a point there.
I'm not going to lie. I sort of, in the back of my mind, regretted not getting the 3-pack of the Brer Trio just because of the fact that I actually managed to hunt down a bootleg copy of Song of the South for the purposes
Oh,
of
there goes Cammy
watching
grabbing
it.
us.
Oh no, she has them. Oh my God, she has them.
Oh, yep,
You didn't
the
know
trio.
Cammy, you could probably make a small fortune off of those if you sold those right now. I'm not kidding.
So last time
You
I checked, these were going off for about $300. Do I want to sell them? Absolutely not. And I also have the Splash Mountain Pop.
I know you do.
Having moved between rooms, that one is still currently packed. But no, Song of the South is actually a very hard fandom to collect into and from, because there's not a lot of product that's made from this. Of course, the movie, as we know, has been off the market for many years due to the nature of the content of the movie. And anything that I have, Splash Mountain happens to be my favorite Disneyland ride. And it's not currently closed at Disneyland. It's only closed at Disney World.
Right.
I believe this year is the last year for Disneyland. But no, I have no intention of letting these go, because this is something that speaks to my childhood.
Right.
It was funny because we were watching the stupidity happen on eBay. I say we, me and my husband, where people were taking water bottles, used water bottles, and sticking them in the water at Disney World and selling them.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
That's
a coworker of mine
crazy.
told me about that. Like, they have them in jars, and I'm like, okay, why are you selling these jars of water from a ride that's about to close down? That's just, one, that sounds disgusting to me, and two, you don't even know what's in that water. So why would you want to store it and buy it or store it in your house?
I've seen people throw up in that water. I've seen people spit in that water. I've seen people wash their hands in that water. So
ew.
Absolutely not. I think it's vile and disgusting. I cannot believe people were paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for those used water bottles. And you don't even know if the person's being honest, in a forum.
Yeah, the only thing that you can get from a bottle of that water is probably a venereal disease.
Exactly.
Ew. But my husband asked me at that time, he goes, I've seen you have a shirt, and I do. I have a retro shirt from the early 90s, and it has like the embossed water, so it's glossy. And he goes,
oh, that's cool.
You never wear it anymore. He goes, would you think about selling that? And I said, I would love for someone else to enjoy it, and I have never capitalized on something, where it's kind of, the time to sell, so to speak. I've always held on to things and then gotten rid of them after the hype. So that would probably be the only thing I would consider, only because I don't wear it. But then when I think about it, I'm like, that shirt has seen me through my life. I bought it when I was like 12, and I don't know that I could part with it. So in terms of the Funkos,
it's tough.
No, I have both, and I have absolutely no intent to sell.
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm actually not surprised you had a Cammy. I'm not surprised the slightest. But no, I mean, like, look, the only thing that I'm gonna say, I know that what's going on at Disney. Am I sad about Splash Mountain? I mean, look, when I went to Disney World in 2018, that was the first ride I went on in Disney, the Magic Kingdom. Very happy about that. All I'm hoping for is that they at least find some way to keep Zippity Doo-Dah at the parks. That's my favorite Disney song of all time.
I think they got rid of it, if I remember correctly.
See, if they
I was
got
upset
rid of
because
that,
I love that song.
That is like one of the greatest Disney songs of all time. You take away Zippity Doo-Dah, you literally kill the magic. But then again, Disney just keeps shooting themselves in the foot anyway, but that's not why we're here today.
I know Disney has been in debate about that for years, about adding like they have warnings on some of the Disney movies on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I know.
Will they ever put Song of the South on it with those warnings? Because I know many people are like, oh, you shouldn't watch this movie because of this and this and this. I'm like,
I personally feel it's a history lesson. I feel that watching Song of the South is an important thing for people to learn from. That's why I hunted it down. That's why I have been able to see it in some shape or form, and I understand where people are coming from. But I still feel that if you erase the past, that's doing worse than showing somebody the past. I mean, if you're not going to show people Song of the South, you might as well tell people you can't watch Schindler's List anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like one of the classic books, like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. They would say, like, oh, it's still, some schools still require people to read it, but yet, the reasons that they say, like, oh, people shouldn't read it. But I'm like, I've been introduced to these classic books, and I've been wanting to read more classics since I've been graduated from college, and I'm like, I honestly don't care about people's opinions. I just care about my own opinion about
No,
things.
you know how the saying goes: those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, and that's what there are. Just
you
some
can't rewrite
stupid
history. That's what people have been trying to say. You can't rewrite what happened in the past.
But
I
anyway,
mean, Walt Disney never saw Song of the South. He wanted to join with the cast, the African American cast that weren't allowed to see it. He actually was respecting them and not watched a movie because they weren't allowed, you know, because of the segregation era.
Before we deviate too much from this topic, though, I do want to caveat that
I'd like
that idea.
Back to the Funko Pops.
Well, no, I'm still on topic. I just want to say, you know, with the change of the ride of Splash Mountain to now Tiana's, I don't know exactly what they're going to make it.
Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Something. Bayou Adventure. Okay. I'm not mad about it. I love
No, neither am I.
It will forever be
I'm not either.
encased in my heart. But people need to understand Walt Disney's vision. And Walt said, as long as there is imagination, Disneyland will always change. As long as
he has said that.
Disneyland will never look the same. And so over the years, I have watched many rides come and go and change and structure their themes to be modernized. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of something classic, even though it's so beloved, to bring in something else. If it's going to bring joy, if it's going to offer something new, then we need to embrace it. I'm not saying I'm not going to miss the beauty of a classic like Splash Mountain, but I'm very excited to see what Tiana's Bayou is going to offer, because if we really think about where Splash Mountain is located, it's located in New Orleans Square. That is exactly what Tiana's whole premise is about. So I think it's perfection for that area.
The only song that should be played on the line to Tiana's Bayou Adventure is "I'm Almost There," meaning I'm almost at the ride. I'm finally getting on the ride.
I love that song.
That's one of my favorite Disney songs of all time. I love that song so much. But it would be so appropriate for people waiting on a line. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Hey, look, my attitude is Splash Mountain's one thing. Get rid of the Carousel of Progress, and you and I are going to have an issue, Disney World.
I honestly just went on Carousel of Progress because I never went on it.
And I just went on there
the first time during my honeymoon at Disney World, and I was like, it was actually a good ride.
That is one of my personal favorites.
But I'm just, and my husband has been on it so many times, and that was my first time on it, and I was like, wow.
I think when we went, my wife and I went there in 2018, I think that was the very first time she went on it. I love the Carousel of Progress. It's my personal favorite. But anyway, no, like some of the other Funko Pops that they came out with in the past couple of weeks, like they were doing it's the 60th anniversary of the Avengers. So they're making these Avengers Pops with comic book shading with little pins to collect. And it's not really grabbing me. It's not. And, you know, they're just... And now they want to make this whole thing like they want to bring the original 6 out of the vault with like a special design with a base and a pin and a coin and a thing like that. Cammie's got something to say.
You know why? Because this is what pisses collectors off. This is what devalues our pops. When you start taking the OGs, like from back in the day when Funko first came out with these 4-inch pops, because, you know, Funko's been out for 25 years, but when they started making these things behind us, they need to keep the originals original and not make duplications, because then that's where all these thieves and these creators that duplicate boxes to a T and put out these fake products start screwing with our OG originals. And I have the original OG Batman.
Yes, you do.
How it got started for me. And I will stand on my damn canary platform over here singing and whistling Dixie about how pissed off this makes me that they are messing with the originals. There's some things you just don't touch.
I agree.
And that, in my opinion, is one of them.
I agree.
Alone. And
I mean, to a certain degree, I don't mind when the Pops get a serious makeover. I mean, I'm not going to get them, but I like the new Mickey and Friends line, because I will say, have any of you ever seen the original Donald and Goofy Pops? They are the most creepiest things you've ever seen.
I don't think I have.
Oh my God, do yourself a favor and don't. They are scary. That Goofy.
Steve, you got me curious now. I will look it up as soon as we're done with
Well,
this
then you
video.
have to send me a message and you have to let me know what your thoughts are because, oh my God, that Goofy gave me nightmares. But they remade the Mickey Mouse original cast and they gave us a new formed version of Donald, Mickey, Minnie. They finally gave us a Daisy. Like, when were they ever going to give us a Daisy Pop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
You can't have a Donald without
They gave us one
without
for
his Daisy.
Christmas. Yeah, we got a Daisy for Christmas.
Yep, exactly. And they finally gave us a Chip and Dale that you didn't have to get at a Comic-Con. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that I have the 2015 Flocked Chip and Dale. Those are mine, and I got them because I'm such a Chip and Dale fan. They're my favorite Disney characters. But I like the fact that they now have ones that you can actually go out to a store and you can buy them. Also, another thing that they're also doing is now you can get the Pops. Like if they have a set of 4 or 5 or 6 or sometimes even 8 or 9, like you can now get them individually or you can go to a retailer and get like the big pack exclusive just to get them all. You know, to a certain degree, I can see where people would buy those. They'll spend the extra cash because then they don't have to go out in the wild to go hunting. And the funny thing is, I've been collecting for 10 years and I don't think I ever truly have gone hunting for a very long time. And the reason why is because when I first started collecting, they were pretty much everywhere and they were so easy and within reach and easy to obtain. But for the last couple of years, I've basically just been getting them from online retailers or going on Amazon or stuff like that. But, you know, I think one of the few things that people also need to understand as collectors, it's like, people will come and see my Funko Pops and people will go, holy cow, that's a lot of Pops. But when you take a look at some of the big names in the Pop community, like Top Pops, just for naming an example, my collection in the span of 10 years is not even, just crossed the 400 threshold. So the fact that it took me 10 years to get over 400 Funko Pops, I don't classify me as completely going out of my mind, and I don't classify it as a big collection. I don't.
We call those fanatics. You're not a Funko fanatic.
I am a fanatic in a certain way, as I love to see what Funko always has in the pot. But am I going to go out there? Am I going to grab everything and anything that they make? Absolutely not. So, yeah.
But see, that's what Top Pops does. And I think that we need to set aside collectors like him in the regular general population of us collectors. We love to watch Top Pops because let's face it, I mean, he's got a great personality.
Yes.
We've watched him grow up from as a kid to now an adult. You know, he's getting ready to graduate
Funko
college.
now, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt that. And I kind of figured that because after the he did a video for them where it was like around the world kind of thing or whatever, where he did a Canadian spot for them. And it's due. He has spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in Funko. This is a kid, and I shouldn't even call him a kid anymore because he's not. He's a grown-ass man. But he literally is that type of person that will go out the week of, he hunts, and we get excited. We go on hunts with him, you know, and he will buy the entire line. He will buy every, you know, chase variant and all of these things. So he is the type of collector that most of us are not. That maybe, yes, if we had extra money or whatever, maybe we might actually be a collector like that. But I mean, look at his entire the basement of his parents' house is all his Funko collection. Not everybody has an entire basement that they can put these things in, you know? So, but we have seen the evolution that he has changed because he has given us as collectors so many different ideas of what you could do. At one time, he even had a separate office that he would go to before his parents got their bigger house or whatever. And I'm sure he helped buy that house, you know? He makes a lot of dough on his channel.
Yep.
But
that's why he has no guilt in doing what he does.
No, and he shouldn't. By all means, nobody should ever have guilt for doing what they love. If your collection is Funkos or Hot Wheels or Legos or whatever makes you happy, it is nobody's damn business how you choose to spend your hard-earned money. And I tell people this all the time. Don't worry about how much money is sitting behind me. I'm a grown-ass woman. I am in my 40s. I have been collecting for over half my life, probably more than half my life. And this is not a prodigy of last year or the last 5 years. This is a prodigy of the last, 25 plus years, because not only do I buy for me, my husband buys for me, my parents still buy for me, my sister buys for me, because people know what to gift me. They know that I still love toys. So I think with watching though collectors, I think beyond complaining, like I said, about people judging other people on how they spend their money, we also need to scale back and realize, the people that we watch and that we love, we don't have to be like them. If you cannot afford to add these things to your collection, don't kill yourself trying to do that.
No, the thing I like about
what your needs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I like about these people and other collectors like Dr. Applesauce or Gasselcast, what I appreciate about them, and, there's also a Frank McGinnis, I just appreciate the fact that they at least let us know what's out there, because that's my favorite thing. I think I get more of a thrill just seeing the new pictures of things that are coming out and what's on the way, rather than actually going and collecting them myself. I mean, when I get them, yes, I'm over the moon for it, but what I also want to ask is, it took a while for Funko to actually break the one-trick pony, so to speak, because they were trying to make so many other kinds of collectible products outside of Funko, whether it was things like Dorbs or rock candies, and yet everything just seemed to fall by the wayside until they seem to have finally gotten it right. And I know, I have a rock candy too. I have a single rock candy of a DC Bombshell, but I want to actually.
I have Buffy and Willow, and then I have Alice.
Well, I want to know. I actually want to talk about Funko sodas, because this was something that came out. I actually didn't think I would get interested in these at all, but there were two things that I found quite fascinating about Funko sodas. Number one, they seem to have surpassed the PoP in regards to popularity, and I think it's because of the fact that they're really making it worth your while, because now, until literally a month ago, and I'll tell you why, they were all made in limited batches. And you have each one has a chase, so it makes the hunt more interesting. But I also find more fascinating is the fact that sometimes they make Funko sodas of characters they never even made out of into Pops yet.
That's really interesting.
And the one that I have right here is a character called the Tick. So they never made this version of the Tick into a Funko Pop. This is based on the 1993 short-lived cartoon. So
yeah, my husband has seen that. I've never seen a Tick.
It's a very interesting TV show. It's very smart. But when they were making, the Sing-Along Owl, I got the Tick because they never made a Funko Pop. And I love the Tick. Another character that they made into a Funko soda that they never made into a Funko Pop was Mighty Mouse. And I am someone who likes to preserve, to a certain degree, old cartoon characters. Because Cammie mentioned Hanna-Barbera. So I have the entire Jetsons line because I'm a Jetsons nut. I have Fred and Barney Flintstone in their cereal icon pop versions because I love the fact that I have Cocoa and Fruity Pebbles. That's pretty awesome. They really have not been making many icons in a while from food advertisements and stuff like that. I'm a little upset about that because those are the ones that really sell. And I have other characters like Popeye and Felix the Cat and Quick Draw McGraw, but they never made a Mighty Mouse Pop. So when they made the Mighty Mouse, and that's the other thing. The minute those things go on sale on online, you gotta be faster than a Funko Pop collector to get a soda because those things get sold out like in an instant. And I missed the Mighty Mouse. I just happened to find it in a store one day when I was hanging out with my pal Andy. I was like, oh my God, there's the Mighty Mouse. I got to get it. And it wasn't just that. It was also the fact they only made 7,500 of them. That's a small batch. You ready for this? I also made another big score because another person who was interested in Funko sodas is my wife. But she was looking for that exact Funko soda that would just make her happy. And that's the same thing with me. I'm much more selective with Funko sodas. I currently only have 6 of them. And I've been collecting sodas for 3 years. So think about it. 400 Funko Pops in 10 years, 6 Funko sodas in 3 years. So there's a big difference. So D23 comes out last year, and they announced one of the new products, the 3-liter soda, the big soda that comes in a big soda bottle.
Oh.
So it was Baymax. And the chase of Baymax, if you got the chase, was Baymax holding Mochi the cat, which was adorable. So my wife had been looking at Funko sodas and like not interested in anything. And she was like, this may be the only one. Get me the Baymax. I ended up getting it. There's only 5,000 of them. And guess what? There's now 2 Funko sodas for my wife on pre-order because now they finally decided, now let's make the Care Bears. So I pre-ordered her a Grumpy Bear, and just yesterday I pre-ordered her a Bedtime Bear. So she's got 2 Funko sodas on the way. But here's my attitude. I am very impressed by how well these products caught on, and it's about time because outside of soda now, Funko Gold seems to be one of the stupidest things that Funko has ever tried to invest in. And the only other thing that's very successful for them is, thanks to Mike Becker coming back to Funko, is their Loungefly products. People are spending a lot of money on those Loungefly backpacks and wallets and all that cool stuff. I wish I had the money to spend on those because every time I go to a Hot Topic or a box lunch and I see like the Loungefly display, I am just in awe at the designs and how they capture everything from Star Wars to Disney to everything you could possibly want. And I mean, Cammy, when they announced the turtle van with the light up headlights backpack, that was too much. That was too much.
I looked at it for like an entire weekend trying to talk myself out of it because it's a $90 bag. It is super cool. And I am a huge Loungefly. I've been wearing and buying Loungefly for probably better part of 15 years. But I've watched it, again, evolutionize into this big, huge moneymaker now. And so what I used to spend, like 30, 40 bucks on a bag, I'm now spending 80, 90 bucks on a bag on average. So I've got to be very selective in what I choose. I think I bought my first Loungefly bag in probably 10 years this past holiday season. I bought me a very small Nightmare Before Christmas one just because it looked so cool. It was like 3-dimensional. And then I ended up having to buy a wallet separately, like a small little change purse wallet, because my normal wallet wouldn't fit into it. So I was like, damn it, Loungefly, you got me anyways, you got my money.
But it's just like, that's definitely, I think, where Funko is really making their money right now. I really think it's Loungefly and the sodas. Because again, I think what the sodas did was they brought back that feeling that Funko Pop collectors have been yearning for such a long time, and it was the love of the hunt. Because I mean, when I think I started to say to myself, what in God's name is Funko doing when they started doing the blacklight stuff? I think the blacklight stuff is the stupidest stuff. I will not deny the fact that I think the gingerbread stuff is cute, but I would never invest in it. But
I have gingerbread. I'm not gonna lie.
Can't.
I bought all the Nightmare Before Christmas gingerbread this past holiday season. There was only 4 of them, so it wasn't a huge investment. And then I bought Mickey and Minnie last Christmas. So.
But I think that's why the sodas are catching on. I think it's just because of the fact that people are reminded of the nostalgia that they used to have when they were hunting for Funko Pops, especially when it used to be. I mean, have you noticed how easy it is to obtain things from the cons now? Remember how difficult it used to be?
Yeah.
It's
I get that as a
crazy.
collector, that's another irritation, and you didn't even really go back and touch on it, but now they're making sodas common, which is
Yeah,
great.
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that, though.
Yeah, I know, but and you didn't you deviated away. So before we get off topic, that's another thing that upsets me because they had a great thing going with these. That's again what made these collectible. That's what made the value of these stay where it's at. But when you start integrating things, and again, I know let's include everybody, but collecting has always been a game and it's not to include everybody. You have to make some things exclusive. You have to make things challenging because that's where the value in collecting is. And that's how, let's say 30 years from now, when somebody's looking at my collection and they're like, oh, okay, you don't want it anymore. Oh, you've got that one rare item that I haven't seen, or I will maybe only seen 10 people have. It's like collecting hot rods, you know? You've got that car that there was only 200 ever made. That car is going to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, 20, 30, 40 years from now. But if you make 10 million of them, it's not going to be that exciting and that cool. I'm not being a sour collector.
No, you're not. You're not.
No, you're not.
I understand that it's nice to be able to have things that are attainable, just to say, okay, I couldn't afford it then, or I couldn't get to it because there was only 2,500 of these made, and now they're mass producing this one, so I've got a shot at it. Cool. Do that one time. Do that 5 times, but don't do it as a commonality now because then
But
you're
that's
going to
the
completely take
thing.
away the fun of collecting.
I don't think that they're doing it for everything, though. You're right. They have made some of them commons, but all I've seen so far is the ones that don't have the limited piece marker on the cans seem to only be from the new Marvel ones. And if you think about it, that's also the very first time that we've been seeing soda lines. The first time that I saw the sodas with no marker of how many had been made was when they made the Black Panther ones for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. They made an entire Black Panther soda line, followed by a Marvel What If line, followed by a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 line. So they seem to be making certain ones for certain people who are probably going to go out and buy them. So maybe it makes sense to do it that way, just because of the fact that if you're going to make an entire line of Funko sodas based around one franchise, then Cammy, I respect everything you said and I agree with everything you said, but in that specific scenario, it makes sense. Because like the Care Bear ones that I just pre-ordered for my wife, yes, they made 2 Care Bear ones, but those had limited labels on them. They're 7,500 each. So they're still unique. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not so concerned about that, but I can see where people like you, and not even just people like you, like Gasolcast made a whole video about that. I mean, the other thing that I will still say is my biggest gripe with Funko right now is the NFTs. I hate that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a cash cow. This is really them trying to squeeze as much money from their fans as they possibly can. I mean, you can spend hundreds of dollars on these digital packs of cards and not even get one of those redeemable physical pops, because let's be honest, that's the only reason why people are buying those. And what pisses me off to no avail is when you take a look at those lines that they've been making and you see the characters that are in these limited NFTs, you say, why the hell are these not commons? Like, when they announced the Looney Tunes line, knowing that Foghorn Leghorn was never going to be a common, that angered me. He's my favorite Looney Tunes character. The fact that they made a Hanna-Barbera series and I couldn't get Elroy as Space Boy, Zoom, from that old episode of Jetsons that I love so much, I got really upset. The fact that they made a DC Comics line and I couldn't get Calvin Ellis, a.k.a. President Superman, aka the Black Superman, I couldn't get that unless I invested hundreds of dollars with hopes that I would get it to get a refundable, a redeemable token. That angered me. I was so happy that this Green Lantern came out, because before that, the only way that I could get a Kyle Rayner Green Lantern was if I bought NFT packs. I mean, this whole thing about NFTs and Bitcoin and all of this hullabaloo that like people are eating up, I don't think I'll ever get it. I don't understand what it is that makes it so appealing, but the only thing that I will say is, you know, I don't want to say this about Funko, but, you know, congratulations to Funko for being cash-grubbing scumbags. Like, you really know how to get money from these people that are investing in your products, because you have gotten these people to love you so damn much that they're willing to throw anything and everything at you. I mean, how many times have you seen Funko drop something on Twitter and how almost so many people, like I would say 100 people, will post that famous meme of Fry from Futurama saying, "Shut up and take my money," you know?
Yeah, but I think that is where my anger in these NFTs come from, and it's not because I'm being a bitter collector. It's because my understanding of the NFTs when they started was that if you invest in this line, you were going to get that unique pop. You know, by buying this, by spending that extra money, you were still going to be guaranteed a pop. And then to know that as they continued the process, you weren't necessarily guaranteed the pop. You were just going to get this digital, you know, card. Okay, well, as a collector who's literally throwing my money at you, that is not a way for you to say that you value me as a customer. That's you saying, okay, let me, you know, take your money and here, let me light it on fire and you can watch it burn. Because what am I getting out of this? You know, as someone who has seen the digital age from its inception to where we are now, how many things have you downloaded on your computer that the server goes away and that is no longer available to you?
Oh, yeah.
People say this all the time about digital content, you know, when it comes to digital music and movies. You are buying it, yes, in that moment, but that doesn't mean you're going to own it forever. It's
Buy the physical.
So yeah, so I do have an issue with NFTs. I do have an issue with how they're run. You know, some people can look at that and say, oh, well, you just must not have the money to throw at it. No, I think it's a waste of money. If I'm going to go and spend hundreds of dollars on a pop, it's going to be like, you know, the grail that I just purchased. You know, it's going to be something that I have wanted for a really long time. It means something to me. I do feel that Funko has a very unique niche, like a 1% niche of collectors out there that are Funko favored, and some of the things that they showcase, whether that be on their Instagram platform, their YouTube channels, what have you, seem obtainable to the average collector, but they're not, because Funko is sending this product directly to them for being fans for so long. And I get it, you know, there's like a guy in California who's got, I think, over 4,000 Funko Pops. Like literally his house is wall to wall Funkos. That's great. But some of those very unique Funko items are going to be given to him or offered to him first. And so that allots for him to continue to build his collection. We're seeing the same thing happen to collectors we've been watching for years, like Top Pops, you know, which is great. Again, he spent thousands of dollars on his collection. He's entitled to get some freebies. However, I get frustrated as a collector seeing some of these things that I know I'll never be able to collect or obtain because it is for a very unique niche collector.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw the latest NFTs redeemables that they're making, and it's going to be a second wave of Nicktoons, I believe it is. And I don't know if there are any, I don't know if either of you have ever watched a show called Invader Zim.
I've heard of it. My husband loves that show. I just couldn't get into it, but I know my husband loves Invader Zim.
Because one of the redeemables is the character Dib, his dad, Professor Membrane. So I was like, oh, wow, that is so cool. But the truth is, I was sort of angry, and then I was okay, because if it was Professor Membrane holding a piece of toast, then I would have been really angry. And everyone out there watching, unless you've seen Invader Zim, you know exactly why I'm saying that. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But the last thing that I really so the truth of the matter is I think that I'm impressed with the fact that Funko has managed to break free from the PoP one-trick pony and has managed to be successful with sodas and be successful with their Loungefly merchandise, because I really thought that Dorbs was going to be the one that really caught on, and for a while I thought it did, and then it just vanished. I mean, look, I have 2 of them. I do. And
I have, I think, like 5 or 6 Dorbs, and I love them. They are so cute.
I have the Batman animated series Batmobile that came with the DC Legion of Collector box when they used to have those collector boxes. And the other one that I got was George Jetson in his car because of the fact that it was a limited 5,000 piece, and I bought it at the time when there were no Jetsons Pops and didn't think there ever would be Jetsons Pops. Mm-hmm. So I just needed to get something Jetsons in my Funko collection. But do I regret the fact that they have Jetsons Pops now and I have that Dorb? No, absolutely not. The Dorb was very inexpensive. It was only $20. And the fact that I have it and it's a limited piece, and now considering the fact that they don't make Dorbs anymore, it's part of Funko history. You know, it's like the people out there who collected the Wacky Wobblers. You know, it's like when I see a Wacky Wobbler somewhere, I just get very nostalgic. I'm like, wow, that's like the very first Funko product. And that's a perfect way to segue into this next topic, because now I really want to get into some really negative things that I've been hearing. Funko is definitely going in a very unusual direction, because, Cami, when you said that they were going back to basics and going back to their roots, I don't know if that's necessarily true based on everything that I've been hearing over the last couple of weeks. Because when I first heard that Brian Mariotti was coming back as CEO of Funko, and having Andrew Perlmutter, who used to be the president, became the CEO, and then stepped back down, you know, I thought that that was a big thing for Funko. But at the same time, you know, I was on a major high because Funko was actually giving me all of these amazing products that I wanted. But then some really, really bad stuff started coming out, and a lot of YouTubers who are Funko Pop collectors are talking about it now. Apparently, they fired their entire social media team. They let go of a lot of head creative directors, and some of these people are people that we saw in the Funko documentary, which we talked about the last time the 3 of us and Katie actually hung out. Reese O'Brien, if you remember the Funko documentary, he was the guy that talked about seeing Star Wars for the first time. He was let go. Jim Butcher, the guy who talked about how he made his entire office look like old 70s, and he didn't realize it was turning it into his own living space from when he grew up as a kid, he left. The fact that they actually let Sean Wilkinson go. I mean, Sean Wilkinson, a.k.a. Wilkie, was known as one of the 3 Musketeers, meaning the 3 founders of Funko. That was Sean Wilkinson, Rob Schwartz, and Mike Becker. And considering what you were saying, Cami, about what Mike Becker has been doing, I'm really wondering right now what Mike feels right now, considering the fact that he trusted Brian to take his company to new heights, but still try to keep that aspect of this really is like the next best thing to Disney World. This is like the other happiest place on earth. It seems that that's not the case. A lot of people have been coming out saying that Funko doesn't pay their workers well. They're talking about how the new vision is to be the next Hasbro or next Mattel. The fact that they want to outsource their creative directors and not really give us quality anymore. And now they want to go quantity over quality. And then there was this big thing apparently in Arizona where they opened their warehouse to the public, and they basically tried to just get rid of all their inventory. And the craziest thing was people said that they found NFT pops there for $15. So it's been hard to try and muddle over all this news and try to make some sense out of it. But I will say what a lot of the big names in the pop community are saying. I still love Funko as a company. I still love their product, but now I'm definitely following them. Like, I'm not going to be looking at them with rose-colored glasses anymore. Like, I'm really going to be looking at them with a very judgmental face. And I'm really going to be watching every move that they make and watching every product that they release. And I'm really hoping that what people are expecting, which is the worst, is not going to be the case. But that's me going into Funko as a collector in 2023. Hearing all of this news, I just have to say, I don't really know how to feel about them anymore.
So, in reference to all of that, I do want to start at the beginning where I said Funko is going back to their roots. I didn't mean as a company, I meant as individual collectors, because if you think back to Making Fun and watching that documentary and just how the excitement that Brian Mariotti and Mike Becker would talk about, you know, collecting as kids or teenagers or even young adults, and the things that interested them. I mean, we've even at multiple points in Funko's history been able to walk into Mariotti's office and kind of see the different things that he has on showcase. So what I mean by that is them going back to the things that they love. And by doing that, they're kind of shifting the dynamic of their company to be those types of products. Hence what you said about, you know, possibly making it like a Hasbro or something like that. Okay, you have to be very careful as an unique and individual company like Funko is to try and tailor your already existing company with 25 years of lineage and 25 years of customers that have latched onto you and support you, and recreating your image to brand yourself after something that's been here for 50, 60 years, and say that you are going to be like that company because you love their product or you know, collect what they have produced. One of the most unique things as a collector over time, and I have a gambit of things. I have, you know, things still mint in package, mint in box, you know, never removed from box. I have things from my childhood. I have things that were from my childhood, but that I got as an adult. So I understand what Mariotti and what Mike Becker kind of envision when they say stuff like that. But we have other avenues as collectors to go and find those types of products within those existing companies. So for Funko to then say, we're going to rebrand or reimage or wherever they think that they're going to become like Hasbro or Mattel or whatever it is that they seek to be, we as collectors don't need that. We as collectors and backing Funko are saying, we like your product. Why don't you make more of your product? So for me, I would like to see them go back to the roots of their company and why they got started and what was unique about them and what made them fun. I think the problem with old men, and I can say this, old women too, but I mean old men that get into the game is they get into it with kind of childlike eyes. And I don't mean this in a sexist way at all. We could just say an old collector. How about that?
No, you can say the original. It's fine.
Well, and I just mean old men because that's who collaborated and made this company. You know, our OG3. When they start to age, they run out of ideas. They run out of the steam. They have to reinvent themselves to keep going, and they have the midlife crisis. Why.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. I feel that we are living through their midlife crisis. And if you look at Mike Becker, he looks tired. He's looked tired for about 5 years.
He talked about that. Yeah. Like, remember when he sold the company to Brian, like how he loved his company so much, but in less than 10 years, he looked like he had been through a hurricane just because of everything that he was doing.
When he came back, he looked refreshed and rejuvenated. He looked excited again. And then now he just looks worn out. And I think they're just spinning their wheels at both ends. I think they're burning their candle at both ends, however you want to word this. And what's happening is they've got too much going on. There's too many lines, there's too many products, and they're not devoting enough attention to any one given product. And so therefore you're having lines that fizzle out, you're having ideas that don't really pan out, and you're losing your original fan base in the process. Can this be salvaged? Absolutely. But I think that the big wigs, the CEOs, the CFOs need to scale back and remember that the whole reason Funko got where it got is, you know, beyond their original vision, is they're creators. They're you know, the people that actually ink these ideas and create these visions and bring them to life. You know, when you sit there and you see someone animate something out of their mind because they themselves were a fan, or they themselves remember hanging out with their grandfather, or, you know, going to a movie and just becoming immersed in it. Those are the types of Imagineers you want. And if you continue to fire and let people go, and I don't really know what the backstory is on why all those OGs left the company. I still have some investigating of my own to do. There's got to be a reason for it. But 9 times out of 10, when OG people leave a company, it's because they're disgusted with those that are left and what ideas that they're bringing to the table. And if their idea is to piggyback off of something that already exists, like a Hasbro, then that to me would be, well, then what the hell am I doing here? Because you don't want Funko anymore. You know, you want what already exists, and I don't want a part of that.
No, it's just because of the fact, again, I feel for Mike Becker, because, you know, the fact that, you know, he gave the company to Brian because of how he felt. The fact that Brian literally tried tooth and nail to get him back to the company because he believed that he could help him fill in these gaps that he was having trouble with. And yeah, I will definitely say that the last maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years even was a time of true growth for Funko, because they really did branch out into a lot of different directions. But at the same time, you know, as someone who understands what business is like, you have to do that, because if you don't try and expand, you know, if you literally just invest yourselves in one product for the rest of your life and that product goes bust, then what do you have? So you have to try and branch out, and you have to find ways to see if they will succeed. And if they fail, then it's fine. At least you tried something to pick up where you possibly could have fell off with something else.
As a toy collector, Steve, I disagree. Ask Lego, ask Hot Wheels, ask Barbie. They didn't deviate from their product. They didn't deviate from their image. They didn't deviate from the original concept of what they are.
Okay,
Funko
but hold on 1 second. You said Hot Wheels and you said Barbies. Yeah. That is two. But Hot Wheels and Barbie are 2 products of a single company. Okay, that's Mattel.
Okay, fine. Let me dig into my repertoire of things that haven't changed over the years. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers hasn't deviated. They still make action figures. They still make specific weaponry based off of the show so that kids go and replicate their heroes. My Little Pony. Let's see.
My Little Pony.
But once again, My Little Pony is from a different company. Again, I see what you're saying, Cammie. I see what you're saying. You're talking about product lines. You're not talking about the companies that make the products or distribute the products.
But when you think about Funko, you think about a product line. They came out with Wacky Wobblers, and then they stopped. They came out with Funkos, and then they deviated into sodas. So they have very specific lines, Steve, and that's my point. And there's nothing wrong with creating a line and realizing it's not going to be what you thought it was going to be, i.e. Dorbs. We just talked about that.
Yes.
They only made, a certain amount, and they just didn't do what they wanted them to do. But with Funko, it's more than their lines. I'm not saying a company can't expand. I'm not saying a company can't try new things. But we can see as collectors that inside the minds of these Funko I don't want to call them Imagineers because that's a Disney word, but
Yeah.
the creators of these different lines,
Fun creatives.
they are in turmoil. They are at odds with each other, and it's showing on the outside, and you never air your dirty laundry. They look exhausted. They look tired when they do promotionals, when they show up to events. They just look like they're being pulled in 1,000 different directions. They were a small company to begin with. Now they've expanded. They're international now. Hell, you know, so they just need to kind of sit back, regroup, and ask themselves, who are we? And this is why the stockholders had the reaction that they had come the end of the last fiscal year. Is you are making all these products, but we are not seeing a return on our investment. Now, there's a lot of issues with the stock market right now. That's a whole conversation for another day. All stocks suffered last year. But Funko specifically, since that is whom we are talking about, if you are making all of this product and you are mass producing these things, but you are not seeing the return on investment, you kind of have to ask yourselves, are we making too much? Are we doing too many things? And my answer in the short is yes. I think Funko has too many lines, they have too many products, and they just don't have the clientele to support all of that right now.
Okay. I hope you're right about that, Cammie.
Yeah, I can see what Cammie was saying. Like a lot of these companies have different things. It kind of reminds me of like when it's hard to not compare other companies, but it's like when Disney just got Bob Iger back for the CEO of Disney. Many people have mixed reactions, but it's like if you get a new person to be in charge of the company, everybody's going to be like, oh, I like the previous person better than the new one. But it's like it's always been like that since a lot of companies have started. Because I know like when Walt Disney passed away, his brother took over the company, and then it went to, I don't know who, but then it went to Walt's nephew.
Didn't it go
Roy
to Roy? Yeah. It went to Roy, and then they really took off when Michael Eisner took the company.
You know, it's like I do agree. Like some people, like Cammie said, a lot of these guys who are in charge of Funkos, like they look so exhausted. It's like, yeah, everybody runs out of ideas. Like I could tell about that, but it's like they really need to like figure out what they want to do with a company. I mean, Disney is still trying to figure out what to do with everything because everybody's like always like everybody complains about everything basically.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately that's true.
But it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like it's not like we work for these companies. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain my opinion, but everybody just likes to complain about a lot of things, and I don't know. I pretty much agree with everybody here.
I think though, as a collector, we afford the right to make our complaints heard because it's where our money is going, you know, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hear us, but let's be honest, they are watching our YouTube videos. They are looking at our Instagram pages because that's what drives their decisions. At the end of the day, those complaints, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, whether they want to sit on them and spin or they want to actually do something about it, they hear them. And if enough people say the same things over and over again, they're going to do something about it, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't care, they're not going to change it. They're just going to continue on and have their vision. But I do think that Funko is a company that listens to their fans. I think that they are a company that legitimately cares about the future of their corporation. And I think that they want the best. I think they want what their fans want, but they're just spread so thin right now. And they really need to regroup it and figure out, what is the future of our company? Where do we see ourselves in a year, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, you got to do that all the time at the company.
I mean, the fact that the company's been around for 25 years is a miracle in all itself. And I definitely agree with you, Cammie. They're definitely looking at people who are fans and collectors. They're definitely watching them, because if that's the case, then the Funko Pops that got me so excited in 2022 probably would have never been made. Because, look, I've been making videos on my own YouTube channel for a while now, for 10 years, and I've been yelling about these specific pops, and the fact that, like, a perfect example would be the fact that when they announced Funko Fair just about a few weeks ago, and they announced that they were going to give us Vic Rattlehead from Megadeth, I was like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this pop for 7 years. They finally listened. So you're right to a certain degree, but I don't know. I guess the part that makes me a little upset is just the fact that it's sort of, after watching the Funko documentary like so many times, I can't even tell you how many times I've watched it, and just knowing the OGs and how much they loved what they did and loved this company so much, I just got to say that when I heard that Sean Wilkinson was let go, that was what hurt me the most, because it's like, that's just a founder of the company. That's a friend of Mike Becker's. This is a guy who was one of Mike's trusted friends, who he put his trust in Brian to make sure that he would stay employed. Like, the only thing that scares me is, will this shakeup break up the band? Like, will Mike officially decide, that's it, I'm done with Funko, I am leaving this company for good? Will Brian officially just give up entirely and just sell the company to, like, that's the big question. Like, right now, Funko has two directions to go in, and they don't necessarily have to go, but it sounds like they either want to be the next Hasbro or Mattel, or they could just watch themselves be bought out by Hasbro or Mattel. Like, they could literally get absorbed into one of these big companies. They can.
I
don't think they will, though.
Well,
as long as Mike and Brian draw their last breath, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, you can do a collective merger too. I mean, that's what Saban did, in terms of their line. When I was talking about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers earlier, you have to come to an impasse, and you have to kind of ask yourself, where do I see not only the future of my company, but realistically, where could the future of my company be? And you get to a point where you've been doing it so long, you've tried it all, you've seen it all, you've tackled it all. And if you're tired, you're tired. It doesn't really matter what innovative ideas you have in the pipeline, your heart's not in it anymore. And I think kind of that's what we're seeing in terms of Mike Becker, is that his heart is just not in it anymore. He's tired, and he just probably wants to retire, and he deserves to do that, Brian Mariotti, although I adore him, I think he's a lot of fun as a individual and as a collector. I never really thought he was the right fit for Funko. I think that it was a horrible decision for Mike to put him in charge, because I could automatically see, as soon as he steps into that seat, that was his vision for Funko, is to make it like a multi-million-dollar large company, a big ticket name like Mattel or Hasbro or something of that nature. I don't know where that leaves the future of Funko. Again, we don't know what happened behind closed doors. We don't know why those decisions were made. But when you start to see original members of the band leave, it's never going to be the same. It doesn't matter who you integrate in. It doesn't matter what visions that they have. You're going to have a recycled product of the original, and that is a weaker product. It is never the same, and the outcome is always imperfect. So no matter how great it is, no matter how wonderful it is to see, it is not going to be. So maybe it is time that they just hang up their hats and say, you know what, we did it all, we saw it all, we tried everything, and this is where it lands. I think they just need to focus on what's successful. Sodas are successful. These, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12-inch, 18-inch pops, whatever, they're successful. There is still a mass amount of lines that we as collectors would like to see. We are tired of the regurgitating faces of certain pops. Stop making a million princesses, stop making a million Mickeys, stop making the same things. And maybe collectors will start to get back into the game, because just like original creators get tired, collectors get tired, and then they start to deviate from that product, and they start going to look for something else. And I think that's where a lot of us OG collectors are at, is you're not giving me what I want, so I got to go find something else to collect.
Well, my final thought's basically this. If this was the end of Funko and Funko didn't exist tomorrow, the only thing that I would basically say is that I still have not a single bit of buyer's remorse in regards to any Funko product that I purchased. And I never want, this is an extension of my personality. This is an extension of my interests and my hobbies. And I always love sharing it with other people because at the end of the day, I'm not reaching out to people who work for Funko saying, oh, come and check out my collection. No, I'm reaching out to fellow collectors. I'm reaching out to friends, and I'm saying to them, hey, check out this cool thing I just got. And that's what collecting is all about, whether it's pops or whether it's DVDs or whether it's anything that you collect. That's what collecting is all about. Just the ability to share it with the people who know you and care about you.
Yeah, I can say that for any, type of hobby that I've had, reading, comic books. I don't create content to reach out to billion-dollar companies so that they send me free stuff. I reach out to other collectors so we can geek out, because for me, it's just cool knowing that there's other people that are in their adult years that are enjoying the things that they grew up with. I will forever say I am the adult that is chasing my childhood. I never thought I'd be living my adult life trying to recreate and replicate the room that I was in, that I tried so desperately to get out of and get into the adult world. If I knew it was that unfun, I would have just stayed in that space,
Well,
but finding some of the things that I loved from childhood really was what took me into the space of Funko to begin with, because you had this small little image of something that you love so much, and then to see them continually just build on that and give you more of your childhood and more of all these favorites. Maybe it was just too much too fast and everybody got a little overwhelmed.
Well,
but
I think,
you as the consumer also make the rules. You decide when is enough. You also set the bar on how much you're willing to pay for stuff too. So as much as we want to complain about the price of things, we set that bar too, and we need to remember that as collectors. If you're willing to pay, $100 for a pop, the price is going to eventually go up. When I started collecting these things, they were like $5-6 a piece. Now I can't get just a normal 4-inch pop for anything less than $14.95. So, it is what it is.
Well, I think we'll conclude this with a little line, which is actually going to be a little bit humorous, because I know that Jordan told me something new about her. I didn't know that Peter Pan was her favorite Disney movie. But the funny thing is, if you really think about it, the term growing up is now officially outdated. Nobody actually says growing up anymore. Now you say adulting. And I think it's just because of the fact that the one thing that I will always hold true to heart is what Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund, said in the Funko documentary. And that was, I believe the stigma of growing up is no longer. And when we take a look at people who are now in their 40s, in their 50s, and even into their 60s, we're still talking about things that we loved as children. And I think that Funko is still one of those companies that allows us to keep living our childhoods. Because what I always say to people, the best advice that I give to you is stay young at heart and you'll never grow old. And that's going to conclude it, everybody. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. This was such a great conversation. Cammie, thank you for putting it together. This really was your idea. And I'm just hoping that we all continue to enjoy ourselves with our collections and our interests, and just keep doing what it is that you love to do. And with that, everybody, we will see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.